to the let that get out of the way. Welcome to the West Virginia Creative Network's 2025 Literary Arts Fellowship, our virtual poetry reading. So tonight we're highlighting our two fellows who are poets, and I think you all are going to just be delighted to hear the words that are shared tonight. If not a little astounded. I expect it's going to be more than delight that you experience tonight. So as I said, I'm Candy Workman. I work as the Director of Strategic Development with the West Virginia Creative Network. I'm also the Program Manager for our Literary Arts Initiatives. Our Literary Arts Initiatives are new this year. To give you a little bit of background, the West Virginia Creative Network is formerly known as the Tamarack Foundation for the Arts. The Tamarack Foundation, now existing as the West Virginia Creative Network, has an almost 25-year history of supporting artists in West Virginia. We have solidified a statewide footprint this year, so we have rebranded to the West Virginia Creative Network because we now exist in this way that we're doing work all around the state, and we're trying to support artists, especially in that intersection of arts meets business, with folks around the state as we embrace a new way to consider economy in West Virginia that's not necessarily been existent in the past. So one of the things that we're doing as we open up to a statewide footprint is also moving away from the traditional working with craft and visual artists to working with artists of all kinds. And this Literary Arts Fellowship is a pilot project for us to step into that kind of work. It parallels another fellowship that we've had since 2017, the Creative Entrepreneurship Fellowship. So it's in line with the work that we've been doing for a while, and I've been delighted to be able to open this up to the literary world and writers and poets in West Virginia and have these experiences. So I want to give you a little bit of details about what the fellowship is before I move into introductions. The fellowship is designed to help West Virginia writers bridge gaps between craft and business. The fellowship is host to 6 fellows this year, along with 3 mentors. The fellows were selected based on the quality of their creative work and their aptitude to grow a creative business. During the fellowship, the fellows participate in one-on-one mentoring with an experienced writer or poet, one-on-one business coaching with Elaine Grogan-Luttrell of Minerva Financial Arts, as well as monthly financial literacy workshops with Elaine. They participate in community engagement opportunities like this reading series, and they receive a small stipend of $1,000 to help support their creative business growth in whatever way they seem fit. This fellowship would not be possible without supporters, and we have been blessed to have the support from Berea College Appalachian Fund and the National Coal Heritage Authority to be able to host this fellowship this year. So lots of thanks to the folks at those 2 entities. I just want to lay out what the agenda is going to look like tonight. I'm going to provide the introductions to the fellows and the mentor. I'm going to ask the fellows to introduce themselves and share a little bit, along with a question, and we'll kind of follow this pattern of a question and a reading and a question and a reading until the end of the hour. If you have questions for the fellows or the mentor, please hold those to the last of to the end, and we'll have a Q&A session for folks to offer up their comments or questions to the fellows. It is my delight, and I truly mean like delight from the pit of my stomach, just joy to be able to introduce the mentor, David Prather, and fellows Renée and Tucker Riggleman tonight. David Prather is the author of 3 poetry collections. We Were Birds, published by Main Street Rag Publishing in 2019, Shouting at an Empty House, Sheila Nagig Editions 2023, and Bending Light with Bare Hands, Fernwood Press published this year. Congratulations, David. He is a past president of the West Virginia Writers, Inc., a statewide nonprofit organization, and he was recently appointed to the West Virginia Writers Spring Conference director. He taught English composition, American literature, creative writing at West Virginia University at Parkersburg, and English composition at Marietta College in Marietta, Ohio. He also served as poetry editor for Confluence Literary Journal and for Tantra Press, and he hosted the Blennerhassett Reading Series. He lives in the town where he was born, Parkersburg, West Virginia. Thanks so much, David, for being here. Well, Renée is a poet, story collector, and nonfiction writer based in Mercer County. She is the winner of the National Association of Black Storytellers Black Appalachian Storyteller Fellowship and the Gerald E. and Corinne L. Parsons Fund Award for Ethnology at the Library of Congress. Her work has been published in Obsidian, Tin House Online, Poetry Northwest, Minnesota Review, Callaloo, American Life and Poetry, and elsewhere. Elle's debut collection of poetry, prose, and artifacts is forthcoming from the University Press of Kentucky. She has recently been selected as one of 25 artists across the country as a winner of the Black Genius Foundation Stroke of Genius Fellowship. Let's congratulate Elle on that award that she just found out about recently. Lots of love to you, Elle Renée, for that. Tremendous. And I want to note that Elle is one of the only representations of Appalachia in that fellowship as well. Tucker Riggleman is a writer and musician born and raised in West Virginia's South Branch Valley in Hardy County. His work centers on themes of identity, place, and sobriety. He has been a touring musician for 20 years and is using his time in the fellowship to craft a new manuscript of memoir poems about his early days traveling and playing music. Tucker has self-released 3 poetry collections, including 2024's The Wind Through the Sycamores is a Violin, which features poems that were previously published in Sky Island Journal, The Nervous Breakdown, and other lit journals and anthologies. Can we all give a big warm welcome to the fellows tonight? I'm going to actually use sound in my clapping. Here we go. I miss the sound of applause for folks when I want them to hear that love. So as we move on through the night, I'm going to ask each of the fellows to introduce yourself using your words to the participants tonight. Let them know a little bit about you and what your writing is about and what you're working on during your fellowship. So Elle, would you care to go first?
Sure. Thank you, Candy. And thanks for everyone being here. I see my mama, my beloveds from back home, and I'm grateful to my family and extended family for your support. In terms of talking about myself, I would say as the granddaughter of a West Virginia coal miner who labored for 43 years before dying of Black lung, I engage with docupoetics, photography, and domestic artifacts to probe Black Appalachian identity and inheritance. I use research methods like oral history collection and familial archiving to investigate Black interiority rooted in hollers, coal camps, and mountains. My work fuses both the creative and various modes of the historical to reveal what is held by and missing from traditional archives. I am inspired by the archive, what it attempts to hold and cannot, who it attempts to represent, and who it omits. I situate myself as a speaker, collecting oral histories from relatives and elders and communities we once lived in West Virginia and Virginia, interrogating the politics of memory, highlighting generational patterns, sorting domestic objects, and conducting genealogical research to answer 2 complex questions. What have I inherited? And what of these inheritances are in service of or in disservice of my needs to be a free Black woman living in the United States today? I researched traditional archives for evidence of my ancestors' existence, including land, property, tax, probate, newspaper clippings, US Census, and vital records. I hold both modes of documenting a life up to the light, the self-archive as a site of narrative reclamation, and the colonial patrilineal archive as a site of categorization and surveillance, leaning into silences and omissions. This blurring of knowledge, of legibility, of memory fuels my imagination and is foundational to my aesthetics. My writing probes Black identity, womanhood, lineage, the body, trauma, healing, landscape, migration, spirituality, and foodways. Thank you.
Incredible. Oh, thanks so much for sharing that about yourself. Absolutely incredible. We're grateful for your presence tonight and the influence that you have on everybody here in this space. Tucker, would you like to share a little bit about your writing and yourself?
Sure. I was born and raised in Hardy County in a holler called Rig in between Moorfield and Petersburg. Moorfield is a factory town, and that is kind of given as the only option for young people coming up. And I didn't want that for myself. And so I made sure that, I studied hard and my family supported me, my mother especially. And I made it to college and the world opened up for me. And I've been a traveling musician and a published poet now for 20 years. And I really found myself through that. And the project that I'm working on actually ties back to those early days. It's all about my experience traveling and playing music in my first band, learning how to do it all on our own, how to book shows, how to make records, how to just get out there in a van and go see the country. Early adulthood is a very tumultuous time for all of us. So there's some ups and downs throughout. And similar to Elle, it has been archival for me. I've been living with our albums, old press clippings, show posters, photographs, and really kind of immersing in that and trying to tell that story in a way that will resonate not only with the people who were a part of our music and art scene back then, but can resonate with anyone who is a creative person or knows one. And I've been really lucky to have the support of my old bandmates and people who were a part of that scene. So I'm getting some good perspective on it as well. But this past year, I've kind of rededicated myself to writing. And with my new book, like Candy mentioned, I've done a bunch of readings and events and just really gotten back out there and really kind of found myself again with it. So I'm really, grateful for this fellowship and the push to kind of keep going.
Thanks for sharing that, Tucker. Yeah. We appreciate you being here tonight. I know this might seem a little sudden to shift, but we're going to go ahead and ask Elle to share the poems that she brought tonight. And if there's anything you want to say about those, Elle, feel free. If not, feel free to jump on in. And again, if you have questions or comments, you're welcome to put those in the chat or save those for the end and you can share those out. Thank you. Welcome, Elle, to the stage.
Bless, Candy. I'm just going to hop right into it because the time is limited. Why family is a fraught term. Because an aunt or uncle is really a blood cousin. Because a blood cousin is really a secret aunt. Because secrets weigh more than blood. Because blood wasn't the only thing made us family. Because family is 6 children sharing a room. Because a room is 6 children sharing 3 beds. Because beds are mattresses laid on brick blocks. because brick blocks can always be scavenged, because scavengers always look for what they can save, because saviors are rarely fathers, because blood fathers are rarely home, because home is a place my grandmother built, because home is a place my grandfather bought, because home is a yellowing Polaroid, because home is a headstone we don't visit no more. This next poem begins with an epigraph from the book Cold, Class, and Color, Blacks in Southern West Virginia, 1915 to 1932 by Joe W. Trotter. And the epigraph reads, and I quote, "The number of Black miners increased from no more than 3,000 in the entire state in 1890 to over 11,000 in Southern West Virginia alone in 1910. Rural Virginia, contributing over 40% of West Virginia's Black population in 1910, was the major source of male and female Black migrants in Southern West Virginia. Along with paying for advertisements in the local Black weekly to attract Black workers from nearby Virginia, coal operators employed professional labor agents." This persona poem is entitled Exodus, Chatham, Virginia, 1901. Most anything was better than bending like a disc, harrow hunchbacked over baka leaves. I've been in them fields since a babe, body blistered by the lash of sun. Bright leaves, dark sap stuck, then dried my arms a blood brown gum. Black man in sharp black suit eyed me at the train station we sometimes goes to sell snuff. I should have known he was fixing a deal too good to be true, a paid ticket, 2 weeks' pay, even a place to stay. He say Negroes made almost the same as them whites down in them mines. Said it's time we flee the old plantations. I should have known I'd just be trading one kind of dirt for another kind of dirt. He flashed his jacket pocket. I eyed a roll of bills, glossy as sweet gum leaves. He sweet talked me on the spot. By the time my first mind found me again, train doors locked. This next poem is entitled A Ride in Brooklyn. In the yellow cab, the Black driver asked me where I'm from. He has an accent with a pulpy lilt, the scent of mango. I tell him I'm from Ohio. He says, no, where are your parents from? I tell him they're from Ohio. He says, no, where are your grandparents from? I tell him they're from West Virginia. He flashes an eyebrow at me, curiosity rising like morning over mountain peak. I stare back at his lone watery orb, its brown center suspended in a sea of jaundice cresting the rearview mirror. His camera lens assesses my bone structure, my wide nose and plentiful lips, my skin, the tone of ardent sand, my hair coils that don't need wind to stand up on their own. He wants to ask something, but pauses. The question falls back down his throat. He wants to know so bad that eventually he presses the button. The elevator ascends, lifting the inquiry out of his mouth with a ding tongue jutting like a red carpet when he speaks. Are you only Black? A little girl shrieks, her giggles cutting heavy July air coating my half-open window. I see she has managed to pry open a fire hydrant with a wrench and self-determination. The whoosh of water was perhaps more than she anticipated, or maybe it was her own strength that surprised. Either way, relief. Her cornrows are crowned at the ends by white beads stacked at least 10 deep, each braid applauding her pirouettes beneath the spray spurting skyward. She is dancing along the street spine to the beat of joy. At the stoplight, our eyes link, and she winks her right one at me, recognizing somehow that I too hear the drumming, that my little girl self is twirling right next to her. To the driver, I say, none of us are ever really only one thing. I do not tell him about the white man suspected of being my grandmama's daddy, a sheriff who crossed train tracks to police Black women's bodies. I do not tell him about my great grandmama who cleaned the sheriff's filthy house immaculately. Whew. Okay. Family histories are hard, y'all. I'm going to end on a high note dedicated to my mama, who's on this chat for all the years of doing my hair. Thank you, Mama. Tradition. By Saturday afternoon, the stovetop needed rest, but Mama said there's no rest for the weary. By then, her hands had already pressed spatulas into skillets of sizzling bacon, cheesy scrambled eggs, and Granny Smiths softening their sour peels in a pool of butter, brown sugar, a cloud of cinnamon and nutmeg crackling. This was our tradition. Full bellies after cleaning the apartment until it reeked of Clorox bleach, until windows were Windexed almost as transparent as air, but ours tinged fake pine tart as if cardboard trees hung bright green from the newly glossed wood furniture. And still her hands pressed on, untangling my 2-week-old braids, soiled with playground sweat, dandelion dust, fuzzy wayward wisps left by an Ohio wind's kiss as I flung my blue beretted head back to predict the precise velocity my hand needed to pummel a tetherball so fast a sucker kid wouldn't have time enough to interfere with its perfect spiral like the curled hair I longed for. Mama scratched my scalp clean with French tip nails in the kitchen sink bubbles, foaming away stories of my days she always asked about. I sat in the back of our 1987 Ford Mercury after latchkey and her long paralegal shifts, the Navy box on wheels barely putted us home, exhaust letting out black plumes of smoke and gasps like gunshots. Mama pressed her foot down on the pedal to carry us to the weekend. When she cranked up the boombox loud enough to hear Mary J. Blige crooning about real love over the hairdryer, and shellacked my fro with scoops of Royal Crown Petroleum, bouncing down the full shaft of my fluff, wielding the same oak barrel pressing comb my grandmama heated on top an old coal stove in the kitchen of her mining camp shack, telling my mama, as my mama tells me now, to hold down my ear when she hovers near my temples, so scorching brass teeth don't take a bite of my barely worn skin. Bless.
Y'all, let's show some love for Elle and those magical words to move us through time and space. And thank you, Elle, for letting us have a glimpse into your family and your family's history. For those who need it, feel free to take a deep breath, because those were the dips, man, the ups and the downs. Beautiful work, Elle. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and move on and ask the next question to folks. As I mentioned in the introduction, this fellowship has centered on bridging gaps between arts and business, and a huge part of that experience that we wanted to incorporate into this experience is mentorship. So I'm going to ask David, Prather, Tucker, and Elle to all share a few words about how mentorship has impacted them this year, whether as a mentor or as a poet receiving mentorship. David, I'm going to ask you to respond first, please.
Okay. Um, I just want to say that when we went into this fellowship program, which is, of course, this is the first installation, um, I wasn't entirely sure what to expect, but when we got our fellows, I am telling you, the talent that came forth, and I feel that I have been able to, offer some critique that's been helpful and has kept me sharp. These two keep me sharp. They really do. They are insightful and wonderful, and, you know, I love it.
Thank you, David. Thanks for doing what you're doing this year and being a part of this program. Tucker, do you want to go ahead and share how your experience has been?
Yeah. You know, creation can be kind of a lonely thing, and so it's been really special not only to have the other fellows and Elle to have that community, but to have these check-ins with David, who is a really special poet in his own right. I urge you to please check out his work. Um, you know, he is always offering suggestions that, in a way that I don't normally think about it, because it's really easy to fall in love with your work and be protective of it. And even when maybe I don't make the exact change he suggests, it is always making me look at my work in a different light. And it's been really valuable to me. And yeah, I'm very grateful for it.
Thank you. Elle, can you share a few words about your experience?
Yes, of course. David has been wonderful to work with. He's reviewed and offered feedback on nearly 40 of my poems, totaling more than 95 pages of work. Our editorial meetings have felt collaborative. He respects my voice as a writer and how my experiences and identity influence my subject matter and craft choices. And I also deeply respect his keen eye and the questions he asks and the noticings in service of my poem's clarity or underlying motives. He is invested in the process of mentorship and moved by the power of language, and that has been deeply rewarding for me. I'll add also meeting with Elaine of Minerva Financial Arts has been transformative. She's shared key financial knowledge on running an arts business as an independent artist, which has helped me better plan for the future and also assess my current endeavors. Her energy is uplifting and has encouraged me to better celebrate my so-called wins and also to take stock of areas for improvement going forward. And finally, the cohort has been tremendous, so kind and supportive. We've shared some of our personal journeys, our dreams, and our griefs during this fellowship. And it has been so lovely to see so many of these amazing folks blooming and staying committed to their making, especially given our current landscape for funding for the arts. So encouraging all around.
Thank you, Elle. Especially thank you for lifting up Elaine. Elaine has been a key part of this program as well. So if anybody on here is seeking some support with arts financial info, please check out Minerva Financial Arts. I'm going to go ahead and ask Tucker to step up to the stage and to go ahead and share his poetry. After that, we'll have another question for the fellows, and then we'll shift into a reading from David. So, Tucker, please begin when you're ready.
Thanks, Candy. I'm going to start by reading 3 poems from the Music Memoir Project. This first one is called "They Are Gonna Send You Out into the Pitch Black Night." They are gonna send you out into the pitch black night to share your secrets, to squeeze feedback from a piece of wood. Maybe someone will notice that you are in pain and demand the savage display be stopped. Most will cross their arms, pretend not to like it, leave early. How many decades do you have to pay your dues asking for a friend? How many voice memos of holy shit half songs will be pulled from the vault? I am here to break your heart. Shouting in empty rooms, sleeping in vans, living off of garbage, crying in the truck stop bathroom. Listen. Hear that reverb swell. Feel the amp buckle into honey drip overdrive. A generation of lost kids are singing our songs in basements. We are more alive than we have ever been. This next one is called Three Diamonds. The Budweiser sign above the pool table might as well be Monet. An everyday moment captured in dim-lit fluorescent beauty and faded aluminum. Secondhand smoke from your extended family swirls in marbles, coats the air like steam coming off the hood of the van broke down in Louisiana. Might as well be Mars. Put a bass guitar in my hands and I will make it sing of every false love I watched crumble, anxiety channeled from a front row seat. You will outgrow most of it eventually, but I still see the tattoo of my old band every day in the mirror and let it grab my heart only for a second. Might as well be a birthmark. This one is called Weekend Warrior. Staying in a repurposed old theater after a gig, watching it transform into a heroin den. Almost being mugged, but the assailant deciding to spare me because I didn't have enough. Sleeping in shifts like outlaws. These days I play it smarter. A few good ones a month so it doesn't stress the day job too much. Arrange a neighbor to check on my cat. Gone are the early week shows played to nobody. Rehearsals in front of indifferent bar staff just to connect some dots on a map. Time still collects its tithe. The drives feel a little longer now. The hours stretched, the aches deeper. I don't know how to stop. Rock and roll brought me another family, woven together not by blood, but by what we made. Explosive, ambitious, never ending. So along with the manuscript, I've been writing a lot of individual, just kind of standalone poems, and David and I have been working on those as well. And these next couple are somewhat about my current home of Fairmont, West Virginia. And as many of you know, we were really kind of wrecked by devastating flooding this summer. And in Fairmont, the huge flood happened on Father's Day, which was kind of poignant and strange to me because the first observance of Father's Day actually happened in Fairmont as a reaction to the Monongah mine disaster of 1907. And so this poem kind of addresses just a kind of rough summer for a lot of folks. It's called Summer of the Father's Day Flood. Summer storms have been relentless. They shake trees, flood homes, steal lives. I wonder when all this violence will end. I welcome the rare gift of a dry evening. Force the windows open. Let the house breathe. For the past 2 weeks, I have been nothing. Alone again to face an uncertain world full of pains, big and small, I retreat to my quiet dialogues with the house, apologize to the windows for being rough, thank the roof for not leaking, kiss the basement goodnight. This next one, I'm really happy to announce was just accepted to be published in Pictura Journal in their April issue coming out in spring 2026. It's called The Friendly City. A lit cigarette in the road silhouettes the $1 Million Bridge. My city is beautiful when it wants to be. Love brought me here, and twice it left me behind. I try to make the most of it, talk nice with the neighbors, shift my pain into something useful, keep the yard decent. Inside me, there is a country darkness, the birthright of men in my family. Over the years, it has incubated, hatched, grown wings. I want to learn what it looks like to lean into myself with all I have, to starve in service to the work, to heal like a professional, inheritance be damned. I'm ready to eat the blackbird of my heart. This last one, we had a retreat with the fellowship that was really great in Princeton, and we had a private reading at the Dream Bean, which was really great. And on the way back to Concord, where we were staying, I stopped to gas up, and it was just one of those really vibrant, early West Virginia summer evenings, and I just took it in just while pumping gas. And I went back to the dorm at Concord and immediately wrote this poem. It's called Gonna Shine Tonight. This southern West Virginia night is electric. Teenagers are crammed onto the bench seat of an old S10 that hasn't been street legal since before they were born. They are up to 0 amounts of good. Summer is officially here. Makeshift fireworks stands sprout like weeds. The one by Rosie's gambling shack has the best Roman candles. Inside, smaller explosions bloom on screens as hardworking folks exchange their paychecks for fleeting hits of dopamine. Jackson Brown's Somebody's Baby blares from the outside speakers of a gas station. A drunk young man leans against the truck, belts along to every word. There is a longing in his voice that makes me want to burst. Fill the black sky with sulfur. Become somebody's only light. Thank you.
Thank you, Tucker. So I'll show some love for Tucker. You even got a gas pump emoji floating around there, Tucker. Yeah. Thanks for sharing your moments, and that last one with that moment of inspiration, being in that space and what summer can do to us, right? Like what summer evenings can do. And those connections to our youth, even we know. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that. And we've got a question for the fellows only right now, before we hop into David's reading. So, we've heard over the years from different artists and writers that support from community is necessary for growing your work and your endeavors. So if you would think about where you want to be in 5 years with your writing career, and what can you ask of your community, what can you let your community know that you need in order to help you get there? So if y'all can share one thing that, like, hey, this is what I would love to have, see, support from folks, share one thing that could help you get to where you want to be in 5 years. Elle, do you care to go first?
Yes, I had to write a response down on this because I am not a person who asks for help and trying to unlearn that because we all need it. My dream for the next few years is rooted in my desire to write historical corrections that make visible Black Appalachian lives, which are often left out of archives, and to share our stories with broader audiences through performances, poetry, and nonfiction publications, and public arts events, like a community listening party that I held this spring in McDowell County, which included a free dinner, music, a pop-up art exhibit, and recordings of oral histories I had collected from elders. I endeavored to do this work so our traditions, ways of knowing, proverbs, foodways, and histories will continue to be celebrated and preserved. The best way that my community can help support my goals is through resource sharing and donations. Oftentimes, people don't understand the work that independent literary artists do, especially when they are not employed by institutions. We don't book gigs in the same way as musicians, sorry, Tucker, or have visual artwork that sells, which helps support our living expenses. We rely on small grants that are increasingly disappearing in this current arts and humanities landscape and can maybe make 100 or 200 bucks from publishing one poem that we may have worked on for months or for years. And while we are working independently, we are constantly searching for more temporary work to help ends meet. It can be challenging to sustain your self-belief and to keep going when there are so many forces that point to just making your writing and editorial work a hobby and not a profession.
Thank you for highlighting all the challenges a writer who's trying to make a career, especially when writing meets historical perspectives and the time that you need to be able to do the work, learn the history, craft, and not be beholden to an institution that can strip you away, strip your creative energy away. So thank you for that response, Elle. And I want to lift up that Elle did say donations, y'all. There will be some info shared at the end of this about how you can send some love in the form of cash to Elle Renee at some point if you do desire to. Tucker, would you care to respond about where you want to be in 5 years, like, and how folks could help get you there?
Yeah, my goal in this life is to support myself fully as a writer. I have a day job to pay my bills, and I break even with that, and then come home and I put in all the midnight hours of working on writing and music and whatever other creative pursuits that call to me that fill me up in the good way, as opposed to the day job, which is a pure necessity. With this year, with having access to the fellowship in Elaine and her guidance, it's really opened my eyes that I'm doing a lot more than I thought I was, and I'm seeing all the financial parts of putting out the new book, and the response has been overwhelming, and way more than I ever expected, and so I'm extremely grateful. The other side of that is seeing what has been a successful year for booking events and going out there and doing it 100% on my own, no agent, no publisher, nothing, has been that it all kind of comes back out to where, oh, wow, I just need to do it way, way more. But I can't do that and keep the lights on right now at this stage. So my goal is to get there, at least, maybe where I could work a part-time day job and the rest would be writing based income. As for ways to help, we all artists and creatives are constantly fighting against algorithms, and it is not fun to even have to navigate. So I've seen it in person over the years, over and over. Word of mouth still helps an immense amount. There's no algorithm for people, for human beings to share something that matters to you, something that is important to you. Case in point, David has recommended some books and poets to me that I have now have made a huge impact on me, and I wouldn't have known them without him recommending them. So please, if you enjoy anybody involved with this fellowship or any creative anywhere, tell other folks about them. Go to an event. Even if you can't make it, share a link or do some, do anything you can to help get the word out. And it'll be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Tucker. Incredible, incredible. All of us doing the creative work, that word of mouth, to get it out there and create community, right? Because that's part of the heart of fund and support, is supporting each other and creating that community that we all want to be a part of. So yeah, thank you all for that. David, welcome you to the stage. We're going to hear from David, the mentor for poetry. And one reason I wanted to be sure to include the mentors readings in this fellowship session is that, the fellows and the mentors start to develop such a close relationship while they're sharing work. And I just wanted to give an opportunity to lift up the mentors and share their work, because they've put years and years into their craft, their practice, and it's just another way that we can keep telling people about the work that's out there, the people who are doing the work, and help spread the word about West Virginia writers and poets. So, David.
Hello there again. Shameless self-promotion. I will be at the Monongalia Arts Center on November 13th at 6 p.m. So if you're in the area, drop by. Thank you very much. It's been absolutely wonderful, and I have 4 poems to share this evening. I tried to time them under 8 minutes. I am a poet of a certain age, and so my first title will tell you that. After Vietnam, April 1975. Youth was a series of injuries. A bee sting, a bruise, a splinter, a tumble and scrape. The scabs of memory heal. I was a boy standing on my grandmother's front porch, then tripping down the stairs as my father reappeared. Dawn clinging to his shoulders. He swung me up into his arms, and also my sister. Our eyes were floods, our lungs were fluttering wings. I thought I could fly by leaping into the air with my arms outstretched. But the world wouldn't let go. That evening, my grandmother fried chicken and potatoes, boiled beans and carrots, baked bread and pies. Everyone was home. I never thought about sadness, a shadowy creature that settles in and lives within the chambers of our hearts. I didn't know when one war ends, another begins. And something else I want to say is that Elle and Tucker inspired me by sharing their previous and their new work to also create a new chapbook of work, which these poems come from, entitled Raised Among Knives. And they're all about my father, so take what you will from that. This next one is fairly recent, actually. It's called My Father Has a Hole in His Heart. My father has a hole in his heart. So the doctor tells my mother. I want to add my own commentary here, but that would be too easy. The doctor says this defect sometimes occurs at birth, but the muscle will heal itself, except in extreme cases. At least, that's what my mother tells me, how she understood the conversation. I forget to ask her how they missed the defect after his widowmaker, 99% blockage and 3 stents to keep those chambers twitching. I forget to ask how they left him to suffer all those years. But then I think of my own suffering, the lack of love, a child untouched by tenderness. I think of what's to come, how my own body will break, I already feel its entropy. The doctor could have said, "Your father finds you a disappointment." And I still would have known he was talking about my father's ticker. It is a clock, isn't it? One of those old wind-up timepieces that eventually slows and stops. All I know is mainspring, oscillator, and escapement, and the way I measure time, hands over heart. All right, and for the next one, um, I assume most of you are somewhat familiar with the artist Jackson Pollock. And if you're not familiar with the name, you may be familiar with the fact that most of his paintings are splatters of paint all over the canvas. Well, this one's after a painting that came before that period, so it's semi-representational painting by Jackson Pollock. Title: Becoming the Man My Father Never Intended. After Naked Man with Knife by Jackson Pollock. Fathers always kill their sons, chop them into flailing flesh, grave lives survived in pieces. Sons always resurrect their fathers, the angles of those bodies cutting into each other. The sky is always red, the blade is always bright. My father is Daedalus, Odysseus, Adam, and Abraham. I have grown as Icarus flower, Telemachus weed, cane grass, and Isaac ivy, grown wild and burnished in the evening sun. In the country of men, I am a refugee, an immigrant cut by borders and boundaries. All trees die on this land of summer and swelter, fever and fervor. This time, I soar naked into the sunlight, my wings slicing open the muscles of my back, feathers sharp and glinting in the light. Taking a little power there. And the last one, my father has a habit of feeding some of the wildlife around his house. And so this one is called Bob and Charlie. A crow glides over rush hour traffic, then perches on a streetlight. If this is an attempt at omen, these drivers who have me boxed in are unconcerned. The bird starts to dance, nodding its head, swaying its body. I name him Bob, to match his movement, his blithe attitude, his devil-may-care position above all of this. My father still lives in the country of his birth, by which I mean the hills and valleys of his solitude, the trees and wildflowers that sing with wind. There's a crow he calls Charlie, a blue-black bird he's been feeding scraps of his own unfinished meals. I don't know why we both think these corvids are male. It may be a fault of perspective, the way we experience the world through the only flesh we know. We know it's all shadow and feather. Traffic starts to move, and the crow is laughing. He knows a better way home, but I cannot follow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. And show some love for David. That's incredible work. And thanks so much for sharing your work with all of us tonight, David. We've got a couple of more minutes. I want to go ahead and make space. If anybody has wants to make a comment or ask a question to any of the fellows, now's the time to do it. Feel free. And Mary, can you go ahead and reshare links for Tucker, Elle, and David in the chat so folks can have those handy if they haven't already grabbed them?
I actually have a question. Actually, it's a two-part question. First part for both Elle and Tucker. How did you decide which poems to read tonight out of your massive collections? How did you decide that these were the ones you wanted to share? And Elle, specifically for you, like your words are so powerful, but your delivery makes it even more so. And how did you learn to deliver in that way, in that very powerful way that you have? Unmute.
Sorry, I was just saying, wow. Thank you, Lisa, for the beautiful question. Part one of your question, I'll say the time limit is how I decided because I write long poems. There are very few short poems. And I was like, well, I could read one 8-minute poem, or I could try to find poems that I have that are kind of short and might take you on a journey. I think for me in readings and in any art space, I hope to be part of facilitating that change, that people leave the space differently than the way that they came. And so that is the full human experience. That's our griefs, that's our losses, that's our histories, that's our gratitudes. So I try to select work that kind of dings all of those modes. So the reading and listening experience is dynamic and isn't just kind of one note. I mean, nobody wants to hear sorrow, 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 especially nowadays for whatever time period that we have. So that's my hope, that it's kind of a journey. And the second part of your question about my reading voice, really, I have to say, I mean, some of my kin and not blood kin, but other kin are here in this room. And I grew up in a family of storytellers. I grew up in a family of people who are dynamic characters and beings, and thinking about kind of, especially for Black folk, often our histories were not recorded or documented. So through that, being able to talk about the funny thing that was painful and finding humor in it and finding those kind of notes when to say that, or embellishing a story, kind of like a tall tale or that kind of thing. That was the background music of my childhood. And so much of that kind of timing and storytelling ability for me just came from being a child listening. And also through music. I was a big lover of music growing up, and I think sound is probably my strongest sense above, any other. And I just like love listening to music and hearing the cadence of the words that were chosen. That had a huge impact on me. Also attributed to my family and their vinyl records. So short answer, family. Tucker, I'm thrown to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Lisa. To answer your question on how I picked what I was going to do, I wanted to do half and half. I wanted to do half from the memoir project, and I wanted to do half of these standalone poems because I've pretty much got a chapbook's worth of those kind of ready on the side, and we'll see what ends up happening with that. And I kind of wanted to pick ones that were a good representation of me as a writer and what I'm working on right now. It is something I put a lot of care into, is for the room, like reading the room, right? Like, am I reading at a punk dive, or am I reading at a seated, nice, people are wearing suits kind of thing? And I'm always the guy in my bands who sets up our sequence, our track order. It's super important to me how things flow. And so, yeah, I put a lot of care into it, but those are the main reasons for this one. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We've got one question in the chat that I want to go ahead and put out there, and then we'll close things out since it's 7. But Amelia shared she would like to ask if you could go back and give your young self advice about your creative endeavors and your creative journey. What advice would you give to your younger self?
I can go first here. I don't want to assume, but this might be a family member of mine. I don't know. It could be a different Amelia. But for me, okay. For me, it would be don't hold back. I wasted too much time waiting for other people to further my artistic pursuits for me, or expecting, just waiting around for a break I would not hold back. I would give it 110% from the earliest moment. And that's what I'm trying to do now.
I would say, quite simply, you are enough. You are enough. You are enough. You are enough. You have everything that you need right now on this day to do the thing that Spirit is calling for you to do. It is not your job to know how something will work out. It is only your job to do your work. You are uniquely and wonderfully made. And what you have, the world needs to experience. You are enough.
Thank you both for those wonderful words and pieces of advice to anybody on who is listening, regardless of your age. You are enough, and don't wait on anyone else to tell you when you're ready. So Tucker, Renee, can you all share real quick some things you might have coming up, or anything you want folks to know about? If you've got any readings, anything that you've got on the radar that you want folks to know about, and then we'll close out.
Sure, I'll share something that we're all involved in. Coming up November 15th at 5 p.m. at Taylor Books in Charleston, West Virginia. Every fellow from this fellowship will be reading. And I'm just so excited to be in the same room with everyone again. And if you're anywhere nearby, you should stop by. I believe there will be an open mic after all of our
Yes.
readings. So come share some work, dive in there with us, and we'll have a good time.
You took mine, Tucker. Okay. I am super excited for that. I don't know if anyone here plans on going to the Association of Writers and Writing Programs Conference that will be held in March in Baltimore, Maryland. But I will be presenting my work in some of my archival process there. And later next year, God willing, and the creek don't rise, we will be debuting a publicly staged reading and performance that fuses interdisciplinary modes of research and storytelling. I have more information I'll be announcing about that next year, which you can stay in the loop by signing up for my newsletter on my website.
Yes, awesome. Thank you all. Thanks everybody for being here tonight, supporting these wonderful writers and poets with their endeavors. And come back in November, the end of November, for the fiction night. We'd love to have you all back. So thank you all. Have a good evening and stay in touch with these wonderful poets. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.